try to wrap up the Maamar, and while we're at it, try to give it some somewhat practical oisius or a takeaway, something that's negate us in our lives, in our Yiddishkeit, in our Chassidus, Kashrus, etc. Forgot that we're mamish a few days away from Shevat. Personally, tomorrow night I have my father's yahrzeit, so I'll be makdish this lischosei, and Mistam I'll say some stuff here that he would get a bit of a kick out of it. So will be good. Okay. So I believe last time we spoke about etzem ha'oyer and iskalos ha'oyer, different levels, right? Basically, there's three dargas in oyer, etzem ha'oyer, ispashlos ha'oyer. But Beprotius, when this Maamar speaks about, right, there's etzem ha'oyer and ispashlos ha'oyer, without breaking it down. And we explained that Chassidus brings this benigea to different ifanim in chachma. Right, so there's the Gilui HaChachma, there's the Koyach HaMaskil, where all the ideas come from, right? There's like this sort of the subconscious mind where all the ideas come from. And then there's Etzem Koyach HaChachma, Etzem HaKoyach, which like, together with the other Koyachas HaNefesh, they're Koyachas HaKlulim BeNefesh. You have all the Koyachas, the way they're Koyachas Atzmiyim, Koyachas Yulim, Chassidus has different Lashonis for it, which is the whole musik of the Koyach is that it's Kol in the Nefesh, it's part of the Nefesh. It doesn't have its own identity. You're alive. You have a soul. Mainly, your soul comes with a whole bunch of koiches. It's not a bunch of random koiches, a bunch of random tools that you use. They are in your nefesh. But they're all they are just you have a nefesh, and the nefesh brings with it koiches. So the koiches don't have their own individual identity. They're just an expression of the soul, and we don't. And the normal matzah we can't really access the koiches on that level. And then there's this galus of the koiches when we actually access them. Either there's koiches na'alavim, koiches geluyim. Where in other words, let's say a person, the regular intellect they have, the regular kind of feelings and emotions, and then in sort of in a hyper state where they're able to access, or through a lot of work, they're able to access more of that. But that's still the spashus, the gilui part of it. The koiches atzmim are pretty much something we don't access bichlal, other than in very extreme situations, right, where like your life is on the line, or in a time of extreme simcha, and then the koiches just come out like with their ganze koyach. But b'oimek yoser, to understand the difference between these, and also more importantly, that's the mashal. Yeah, but what's the nimshal? We're speaking about the koiches of the Eibishter, the oyer of the Eibishter says the atzmos, is the Eibishter himself, and then he has oyer. So he has, you'll call them, let's say the mashal koiches nefesh. So there's the etzem koyach hachachma, and then there's the gilui koyach hachachma, right? Obviously, and this is all before the tzimtzum. We're not even talking about chachma that tzilis. So how do we understand what does it mean up there? And then what would mean etzem ha'oyer? He has light. He has the potential for light, somewhat sort of light. So there's a deeper havan over here. And with this, we'll understand the difference between the etzem ha'oyer and the spashtos ha'oyer, and then why it's so hard to be megala the etzem ha'oyer, and how we actually access it, which is the big chiddush, the big word of this Maamar, that we, as an individual, we as Yidden down here, we get the oitzer, which is the etzem ha'oyer. So let's say, if we go in chachma, right? Knowledge, wisdom. So a person knows ideas, right? So in the Gilui HaChachma, you know certain ideas. Now, there's knowing the idea in all its elements, in all its details, that's in Bina, and then there's the spark of the idea in Chachma. But then before that, we spoke about this last time, there's the Koyach HaMaskil, right? There's the potential for the idea. I don't have the idea clarified in my mind yet, but yeah, I could figure it out. In other words, it's there. I have all the tools ready, or I have the brain, with the brain that I have, and the way my brain works, right? Everyone, their brain works in a certain way. Some person understands things more hafshatadik, people more slapshus, some people have a better mathematical brain, some people have a more technical brain, or more knowledge, ideas, abstract. So once you're in that seer, even though you don't know the ideas yet, but it's just step two. Like, you just give me the information and I'll process it, I'll get it. But then there's etzem ha'oyer, the etzem ha'chachma. What goes on over there? So there, and for this reason we don't call it ispashtos, we call it etzem. We're not talking about you knowing an idea or you having the tools to know the idea, which is already a stage of knowledge. In other words, I already started that process, I just didn't get there yet, but it's there. In etzem, nothing started. Nothing started. It's kolul b'moyer. Right? It's totally kolul b'moyer, and we spoke about like the difference between etzem ha'oyer and yichoiles is very dakustik. So stuff, what is the difference, and what makes it oyer, and why do we call it oyer? If it's so much closer to yichoiles, why don't we just put it in the world of yichoiles? Why do we count it as oyer? So nekuda is, let's say knowledge, okay? So in etzem ha'oyer, there's also knowledge, but the knowledge there is a very different knowledge. What's the knowledge? What's the yediyah? What's the chachma that's in etzem? Yediyas atzmai. No, lashon at the Eibush there. Yediyas atzmai, yediyah kol nimtzoyim. But before we get to the nimshal, in the mashal, yediyas atzmai. What happens in yediyas atzmai? Yediyas atzmai is so. Pashas yediyas atzmai is a person knows themselves. A certain self-knowledge, self-awareness. Right, so the etzem koyach chachma, so we discussed this last time, the etzem koyach chachma, let's say you had somebody, in the etzem koyach chachma, the chachma, the way it's in the nefesh is a shalim, is perfect, so the etzem koyach chachma is perfect. We don't access that level of chachmas, that's why we all have limited amount of knowledge and potential to understand. But imagine someone, so the real genius, a real chacham, the ultimate genius, that he has access to the etzem koyach chachma. This person, any topic, any stage, any kind of idea, no matter what part of Torah, Choil, whatever's out there, this person will know everything, understand everything on the deepest level, right, without anything getting in his way. Even very, very smart people, certain things they get, certain things they don't get, it just doesn't work for them. But a real chacham that has access to etzem kecha chachma, nothing stands in their way. They'll know everything. That's the ultimate genius. That's a real goyin. Real goyin. Right? By us, we know it's about the Rebbe. The kud is there's a certain nikud. Is there a suffix? Certain things. Bring that up. He'll know it. Right? It's not a shayla bichlal. Why? Because it's not a certain yediyah pratis in this topic and that topic, another topic. He's a chacham. He's a real chacham, and anything that shetimtze. Any chachma that exists, a nachmer, if a new chachma will come to this world, he'll know that as well. So now this person, so what happens? So we look at this person, and we say, one second, does he know that topic? Yeah. But what if he never heard about it? Tell him that, he'll know it. What about a topic that wasn't created yet? Create it, he'll know it. This that we know that he'll know that topic, where's that clarity coming from? From any knowledge? We saw him. We see he's a real chacham, right? But he didn't actually be involved in that topic. We never saw that his brain figured out ideas in the world of agriculture or in construction. We didn't see him doing anything there. But kain safek nish that he'll know it 100%. Why? Because the idea that we know here is yediyas atzmai. We know that etzem kecha chacham. We know he has chacham. We know he knows he's a genius. Uvimela, whatever comes out of it. Now, this is from the outside, the way we look at this person. Now, imagine how this person looks at himself. Right? So this person at himself, he has a deep sense of awareness, a deep yediyah. There's a chacham. There's you might even call it, not even a knowledge, a certain kind of conviction. I know. Over Mela, you'll say, could you learn this? Yeah, I can figure it out. I can figure this out. He's very, very confident. There's a very strong conviction. There's a confidence. Where's his confidence from? Yediyas atzmai. He knows himself. And I know that I'll know. Now, this knowledge is very, very far from the actual knowing. Because the knowing is not based off the facts. In general, we know things because they exist. We see the proof in the pudding. We see atzlacha. You see someone's matzlias. So you know that he could do this because you saw that he did this kach v'kach. The guy got a good mark on his test. He knows the chaymer. how do I know that he'll know something that he never even started learning that whole world of ideas? How do I know that he'll know? How does he know that he'll know that? Because it's not based off the fact. It's not based off what he'll know. It's he knows himself. We speak about the Eibush there, Yedias Atzma Yedei Kol Nimtzai. There's a difference the way we know the world and the way the Eibush knows the world, which is just negaya to the whole sugi of Yediyah and Bchira. Right? How do we have free choice if the Eibush knows everything? So there's many different answers, many different ways. One Nekudas is there's a fundamental difference the way we know things, the way the Eibush knows things. We know things because they occurred, they exist. We see them, so we know about them. We know them means I know that you exist. So you exist, and therefore I know you. By the Eibush, it's verkehrt. The Eibush knows it, and therefore it exists. The Eibusher's knowledge of something is what brings it is chayes, is what brings it into being.
It doesn't need to exist now for the Eibusher to know it.
Verkehrt. The Eibusher needs to know it in order for it to exist. Now, but then the question is, one second, but what does he know? If it doesn't exist yet, then how does he know it? So you come and say, the Eibusher, past, present, future. Yeah, but forget, it's not it's a question of time. It's ilava ol. What does the idea exist for? In other words, there's a concept, and the Eibusher knows the concept. We're saying no, he knows the concept, and therefore there is that concept. Why is that? Because by the Eibusher, b'yedias atzmoi yedei kol hanimtzoyim. He sort of he knows himself. He knows himself. He knows his koyach. What's his koyach? What the Eibusher could do anything, so he could create a world. By knowing that he could create a world, that's the original shoresh for the world to exist. There's many levels. There's Mamalik Kalam, Masayyiv Kalam, right? There's this kind of chayis, there's chayis and slabshus, there's chayis. There's different kinds of chayis and energy that comes into this world. At the first place, in the etzem ha'oir, right, where it all starts, what is that first connection that the Eibusher has with this world? Not that he knows the world, that he knows that he can create a world. Who creates the world? Where's the koyach habos of this world? What's the most simin chavigar sekedesh? Who could create? Which darag could create? Atzmos. That's yichoilas atzmos. The yichoilas is that he's called yoch. He could do anything. He could create a world. So the etzem ha'oyer is what? Is the self-awareness of his yichoilas. Right. So etzem ha'oyer and yichoilas are really one. So what's the difference between etzem ha'oyer and yichoilas? Yichoilis is he can. Yichoilis is I can. Etzem ha'oyer is I know I can. Now it sounds almost trivial. Like, what if he didn't know? Right? Obviously, we're talking about knowledge. We're talking about we're talking about elikus. But what's in nekudah? Just like by a person could have infinite potential. But if you're unaware of it, you're not going to get anywhere. Brachman said this, that the first nekudah when it comes to hatzlacha is, what's the most important thing? That a person knows that I can. I can be metzliach. You didn't learn the Maamar yet. I know I could do it. A person has a certain chosh. A person's a great painter. But one person might be the most amazing painter, but he's full of self-doubt and he's not metzliach. But a person that has that confidence and knows, I have this chosh, this is who I am, I can do it, no matter what's going to come, he'll go ahead and do it. He'll be metzliach. Because that knowledge, that self-knowledge, that self-awareness is what takes it from a hidden potential, helem, complete helem, right? In Atzmos, it's mamish helem. It's yicholos, everything's possible, but it's all behelem. What's megala that koyach? What takes that energy, what takes that potential and makes it something that can actually do something? The oir. But the oir atzmi, which is the self-knowledge, the self-awareness. Which is why this Havos Abriya, where's the shorish of this Havos Abriya? Atzmos. But how does this Havos happen with Poyel? Through oir. Right? Same Simchav says the oir may no more. The oir is mahabe with the koyach atzmos adina. Who needs oir? So ultimately, the Eibusher nothing has to be, and the Eibusher wanted it to be through oir, etc., etc. But what's the hasbara? Because oir is where that potential, instead of being this very hidden potential, starts its gilui. What kind of gilui? Not a gilui that actually starts an active process of creation and a knowledge of an awareness of the world that will no. This is koydem at simtzum. This is koydem ispashtus. This is etzem ha'or. There's only hu shmei bolvad. There's only the Eibush there, right? Only the Eibush himself. So what's the knowledge? Or what's the kesher to the bria? The kesher is I know I can do it. I'm aware. Right? Lashon Chassidus is yesh ayin yesh. Right? Have you seen this? What's the difference between the two ayins? Ayin shel yesh ha'amiti and ayin shel yesh ha'nivra. Etzem ha'or, so there's many levels also. So b'derech kol ayin shel yesh ha'amiti is koydem atzin. So ayin shel yesh ha'nivra is lacher atzin. So b'dakus, etzem ha'or is ayin shel yesh ha'amiti. Spashtos is already ayin shel yesh ha'nivra. Why? Ayin shel yesh ha'nivra is it's elikos, it's the Eibushter. It's already him thinking about a world. I want to create, or at least the shayrish for wanting to create a world, for being interested in this world. In etzem ha'or, it's what? It's ayin shel yesh ha'nivra. Ayin shel yesh ha'amiti. It's an oir that's completely bottle and me'uchad with him. So what's the oir? The oir it's a gili of himself. Be'atzmusay. It's an oir be'atzmusay. Now, so to give this some basis, what would happen if the etzem oir is the skala in this world and actually be gili? What would that mean for us? If we would have access to etzem oir, what would that change in us? Right now, what's our das? Das tachtin. Yesh, ayin, shel yesh, hanivra. Even on the highest level of bittul, v'chulu, but even Chloe, we're speaking about that sort of, there's our perspective, the way das tachtin, the way we see this world, the way we see things, and then, we're bottled to the Eibushter. The world needs an Eibushter. On a higher level of das tachtin, the way it's koydem at simtzum is, it's an elikos. But the way the Eibushter relates to this world, the world has a mitzias in the world of elikos. In ayin shel yesh ha'amiti, what's there? What kind of perspective would we have? The world, it's not a world. It's not a world that has a nerachayis aliki. What is this world? It's yedias atzmai. Yedias atzmai yedea kol nimtzoyim. All there is the Eibushter, elikos. And the Eibushter is kol yachol. And because he's called Yachol, there can be a world. So when we look at this world, when Mashiach comes, it'll be Gilui of Yeshua Amiti, the Etzem Ha'or, right? What's going to be when Mashiach comes? The Gilui of Etzem Ha'or. So what are we going to see? What's going to be the Gilui? We're going to see a world. What are we going to see? We're going to see Gilui Yecholta Yisbarach. We're not going to see a world. What we're going to see is, as the Eibushter can, the whole mitzvah of the world is Gilui HaYecholos. So Yecholis is the etzim potential. The oir is the self-knowledge. And when it's a skala by us, it will be that the whole mitzias of ourselves and the world around us will be, what are we going to see in this world? The whole world is what? But Piyadai Dibur is already a lower level, because it's already the Dibur. But it means that the whole mitzias of this world is what? It's just an expression of Yecholis. It's not a world, it's him. And because he can, because everything's possible by him, it's Gen Zayin Welt. But what's the Metzias HaMitis of this world? Atzmos. You see this in the Rebbe's Maamarim, you see this nusach. The Rambam says that me'amitas himotzoi nimtzu kol hanimtzoim. The Rebbe has a nusach in a few Maamarim, you have in Pad V'Shalom, Chavav, and other places, and it's called the Sichas. Not me'amitas himotzoi nimtzu kol hanimtzoim, that amitas himotzoi hu hamitzias ha'amitis shel kol hanimtzoim. What is the reality of Kol Nimtzoyim? So even the Gashmi Mamish, the Nifal, the Koyach Poel B'Nifal, the Nifal itself, it's not just Koyach HaPoel, it's not just the Dvar Havaya, it's Amitas Himotzoi. That's the Gili Etzem Ha'or. That the fact that we see in ourselves and we'll see in this world, what is this whole Mitzias? What is everything here? It's all a bituy of his Yecholes, it's an expression of his Kol Yachol Shaft. That's what it is. Everything you see around yourself is just sort of an affirmation of who he is, of his potential. So the Etzem Ha'or. So the Etzem Ha'or and Yecholos is the Etzem Ha'or is the Gili of that Yecholos. That's why bets and both of them are Kol B'Moir. And like I said, sometimes you could get in Chassidus, it's like it's very hard to differentiate between the two. The Rebbe very often has very clear differentiations. With sometimes in Maamarim, the Rebbeim, it's like it goes in and out. Etzem Ha'or, Yecholos. Because really they're one and the same. Yecholis is it, and the etzem ha'oyer is the awareness of it, of that truth.
But if remember from last year, you made it sound like the etzem ha'or is more of the sherish of Ur, as opposed to Yecholis, which is
Right, because at the end of the day, what is at the core of oyer? Awareness, right? Gilui. There's awareness. In Yecholis, there's no awareness. There's just it. There's just him. There just is. However, so if you're looking at someone's at the Chomer and Surah, I don't have to use those ways. If you're looking at what there is, there's awareness, and just like I know there's a table, the Eibishter knows as in there's an expression of his Yecholis, right? That there's a Gilui. However, when you break it down to the Surah, what is known over here? What is Begilui? Here, this Begilui means a connection to the outside world, connection to the Zulas, on some level, either Bepoyel or Bekoyach or Beshoyresh, etc. And here, it's a self-awareness. It's all within himself. But at the end of the day, this self-awareness is where everything comes from, right? When you know who you are, everything is possible. If you don't know who you are, it stays completely hidden. Now comes the hemshich of but then we come and say nachazach. This would explain. Okay, so you have let's like this. So you have the Rav, you have the inyanim he's megala to the Talmud right now, b'pnimis. Then you have the inyanim that is makef hakarev, right? Right now the Talmud doesn't get it, but in 40 years he'll get it. Right now he senses that there's something there that he doesn't fully pick up, but he'll be able to get there. Then there's nachacher. Even that right now the Talmud doesn't feel anything. And Nachmar, even after 40 years, 80 years, 120, whatever it is, the Talmud's not picking up anything. Why? Because this Inyan is not just Sasum B'Poyol B'Yachas to the Mekabel, it's Sasum Be'etzem. Right? And the Talmud, there's no way, right? So like in our case, the Talmud could pick up from the Rav, the Chachma that he's Megala. He could pick up certain Inyanim, just like Koyach HaMaskil is like, it's with the source where the ideas come. Like you realize there's something deeper there. What the idea you're saying, it's a great idea, but I sense there's something deeper there, and down the line I'll figure out what your ideas are. What's the premise of your ideas? Where it's coming from? The koyach hamaskel. But the etzem koyach chachma of the person, we don't access that. Right? He himself doesn't really access it, but regularly. But definitely the Talmud doesn't use makabel. But then he says something more. There's a deeper mashal, which is ultimately looking forward to this Maamar. That not only it's sasum completely, it's totally sasum. Biyachas to the Talmud, meaning not only it's sasum b'poel, it's sasum be'etzem, meaning be'etzem is completely not in the world of the Talmud, he'll never get there. Nachmer, by the Rav himself, it's a farmachtazah. By the Rav himself, it's sasum. That even when you get to, there's no oyer over there, right? It's completely farmach. It's lashon that usually when you have an idea, there's more oyer, there's gilui. By the Rav, there's no gilui. So what do you mean? What do you mean? There's no good. But by the Rav, it's begili. This is the etzem koyach hachachma. But here's the vart. And then from this I want to lead to a very interesting nekuda that I think Mamish gives a Mamish reichkeit to this Maamar, to the vart that the Rebbe is saying, and something we could take away from this that's Mamish negeh to the Inyanim that the Rebbe speaks about, Mamish negeh to us today. So at this yidiyas atzmai, this etzem ha'oyers, right? There's a very, very strong self-awareness, and that's where the koyach of all the spashtos comes from. But here's something very interesting. That many people, you see, they don't have that self. They're lacking that confidence. They don't have it. And nachmer, there's a psychological issue that very often the people that are confident don't have the koyches, and the people that actually are shayich, right? The competent people are lacking confidence. Right. So here it speaks about. So what does it mean by the Eibush there? Right. So it speaks here about the Nesias, right? And the Maamar speaks about the Nekuda of the Nesias running over Berech min Akav, Berech min Nesias. So you see this. You saw this by the Rebbeim, and you saw this especially by the Rebbe Yud. The Rebbe doesn't want the Nesias. What doesn't want? He doesn't know he's the Rebbe. So you see this in different yichidus and letters. The Rebbe writes that for this you need the koiches gluyim, the koiches, right? This is our lashon, I think, in Ksav Yad. Koiches gluyim, koiches ne'elamim, koiches atzmim for this. Chabes nicht. All times the Rebbe said, I didn't hear any erois from the Shver. So then they took a minion of Chassidim, went to the oil, and asked the Frierdiker Rebbe, and since then the Rebbe stopped saying, the Rebbe moved on to the next time. Like every few months, the taina, it changed. But one of the Rebbe says, I don't have the koiches. What do you know the koiches? So at some stage, like what the Rebbe doesn't know, right? So at some stage, I forgot, some of you guys know there's different stories, different yonah, but they asked the Rebbe, someone told the Rebbe has to be a Rebbe, different eyes, the Rebbe has to be a Rebbe. The Rebbe said, I'm not shaykh. But he said, no, every day they have Zion. Or the Rebbe knows that he has to be. So I forgot the exact lashon. So the Rebbe said, "Du nimmst mir an als a shakre, and you think I'm lying." So the Chassid answered based on some story that the Elamai said that the Rebbe said, "Certainly, me verstehen nicht." So they said, "I don't understand. Like certain things, me verstehen nicht." So tzatzum, you don't understand. But what's happening? What's in the Nekuda? Nekuda is that this etzem ha'oir, ein chanami, very often is behelim. It's not just very often it's behelim, it's more than often behelim. In other words, betivo it's bis almos, betivo it's behelim. Bichlal oir, and we spoke about this last time, oir has these two, right? On the one hand, oir is gilui, calling none of oir is gilui to the gilui of the moir, like oir shemesh is the gilui of the shemesh. Leidach oir is davuk to the moir, and it's constantly not only davuk to the moir, like eish, goes up to its source. Oyer is always retreating to the moyer, going back to its source. There's in Chachma, there's koyach ha'yirida and koyach ha'afshata, koyach ha'afla. In the Maamar Rosh Hashanah, Yivchar Lanu Chav Gimel, they would bring from Ayin Beis, they would bring this Nekuda. That's why you see also in wisdom, it comes and goes. You have sparks of inspiration, right? At times, like all of a sudden you get it and it makes a lot of sense, and at times it leaves you, it disappears. And Nachmar, also the way Seichel works. On the one hand, it makes sense of a lot of things, and on the other hand, Seichel always is searching for the unknown. We're always looking for something more. It's like you got it, you're happy, you finally figured it out. You're always looking for what you don't understand, right? There's always there's almos, there's lamayla and the case madat ning tachlis. Bezeg gufe nispashtos oir koyach hagilui is more there, and the etzem oir the koyach hahelim is more there. Both of them have helim and gilui, the mamaki mecha. But what's more expressed here is koyach hahelim. The etzem oir, because it's kol in the moir, its home its is the etzem, so it's always bis almos. It has flashes of gilui, but it's very often bis almos. And even when it's begilui, it's in a way of bis almos. Right. So even what we said before, let's say this self-awareness, it's very tricky. It's not always, or more often than not, it's not this. I can. It's that be'etzem is behelim. It's like it says about Malchus. There's levels of Ratzin Agoli, Ratzin Muchla Batzmusei. At a very, very deep level, he knows he has this potential and he has this interest in Malchus, but it's completely behelim. It's completely behelim. So dafke this etzem koyach hachachma, it's very shaykh that it's behelim. No, it's even by the Rav, and especially by the Rav, it's be'etzem sasum. It's be'etzem sasum. And the way it comes, and that's why almost what ends up happening is, how do you know who should be the nasi? How do you know who should get the melucha, the nesias? The beireach min hakavod. The one that doesn't want it. The one that doesn't feel it. Right? The one, we said that you see this Indian, that who, right? I said earlier, that the Afghan people that are shaykh, they feel like fraud. They feel they shouldn't do it. In a way, dafka by them, because the etzem hakoyach is always oila vinis ale. And then you have to sort of like bring it out. You have to be megalit. But be'etzem it's behelim. Be'etzem it's a nekuda that's behelim, and then somehow you have to be megalit. Starting to be megalit by the Rav, and then bring it to the Talmud. So hastes. So let's say like so the inyanim, and so let's say also in the world of ideas. So in the mashal we brought here in the Maamar, right? So there's ideas that Rav gives to the Talmud, and the Talmud understands, doesn't fully understand, etc. But then there's ideas that the Rav can't explain to the Talmud, and the Rav himself doesn't fully get it. There are certain inyanim, even the Rav, that has begiloi sort of by him, right? Even has access to his etzem koyach hachachma. He's a complete genius. The ultimate genius knows everything. Even the ultimate genius will have certain things that, because they're connected to the etzem koyach hachachma, they're even when you know them, you don't know them. They're out. So Lamashal, what do you see this in? Where do we see this? He sold it like I said earlier. We see this in the Nesius. The Chayr, we don't know. The whole world knows that he's the Rebbe and he doesn't know. And then you see something very, very interesting. And this is the Nekuda that's connected to the end of the Maamar. So the end of the Maamar, if you got there, it speaks there about the Ma'aser of the Pinchas ben Yair. Yeah, you saw the Ma'aser there. It speaks at the end of the Maamar. What's the Oitzer? Then we get to the Oitzer. So it brings that the Oitzer is Otzer ba'atzmoi behemat she'osra avois. So not only the king himself held on to it and had it hidden, his parents, his grandparents, etc. What's the connection to the Oitzer? Here we get it from the Eibishter. What was hidden? There's no parents l'mayla. What by Velikus? So it says here that Nekuda is just like a Pinchas ben Yair, that they gave him a pikadin of Shiurim, barley, and then they left. Meanwhile, Pinchas ben Yair held on to it, even though they forgot and they moved on. But he would plant it and turn it, and basically it had exponential growth and appreciated and became much more, had a full goyren, etc. And meanwhile, then he sold it, and he had a whole eitzer out of it, worth a lot of money. So then they came back 7 years later. Imagine they told him, they met him. Oh, we want it back. He says, Adrabah, look what you have. It's not just 2 little pieces of barley. You have all this. So derech it says that everything happened with doyrach hadoyer throughout all the generations. So the schar grew exponentially, and now we have the oitzer. So it's like a shtickle shver. Everyone's asking how does this enter over here? We're talking about oitzer comes mulmayla. All of a sudden it's the avodah we did all the generations. What's happening? Different biur, different nekudas. It's very interesting when you hear the way the Rebbe says it. It doesn't come out so boilet. But the way the Rebbe says it is like this. You have it in the Kovetz here on page 90. So the Rebbe says after the Meister Pinchas ben Yair, was zoy is oichet das was me wart. Yasel mechakeloi. Was a gate durch die doir achar doir and durch kama shonim. The Hadgasha here is the waiting. The fact that we're waiting in Golus, we're waiting so long, and the schar isn't here yet, and generation after generation, many years, so we're going to get a much greater schar, the greater oitzer. There's an emphasis here on the waiting. What's this nekuda of the waiting? And here is very interesting. Like I said all the times, that you see that a lot of nekudas in the Maamar that everybody speaks about in the Sichas more barichas. So this nekuda is not in this farbring; it's the follow-up farbring in Parshas Beshalach, which is the next Maamar. The first Sicha has a long arichas about this, about the arichas of Golus. The Rebbe speaks about it in that Sicha. Similar oysis and in certain ways even more Badgasha and Biur are in 2 Sichas in Tafshin Nun. The Sicha Tzav Tafshin Nun and Matis Masei Tafshin Nun. Both Mugadika Sichas. And the deer is Mugadika oysis. And this is, I'm not going to say the lashon of the Sichas, but the way the Nekuda Chera comes out from here. Golus and Geula are in Yonim Stumim. It's Sasum. Right, we don't really know what's the reason of Golus and why we're in Golus so long. The famous Farbrengen, what's the Sicha, Aishan Rabbi, Tavshim Amdala, that with all the Biurim that Chassidus gives and Nigla gives for Golus, none of them are good Biurim, because ultimately, the Eibusher is not Mugul by every beer, every mile that Golus brings us, the Eibusher could give us a mile without Golus. So that's in the Nekuda Vat Masei. There is no explanation, Cloud. The Eibusher Dafka wanted to be that way. There shouldn't be any real explanation. If there would be explanation for Golus, we wouldn't be able to we wouldn't have real pain. We wouldn't be able to cry out in pain because we would find the reason. We would find the legitimacy, some legitimate reason why there's Golus. Some excuse. So Golus doesn't really have an explanation. And Geula also, the whole Metzias of Geula, when Mashiach comes, the whole Metzias of Geula is the Gilei Eir Sas and the Gilei Eir Atzmi, right? It's a Eir Sas. And that's why also the Kates, when is Mashiach coming? We don't know. We don't know. It's impossible to know. No one knows. And with all the kitzim that were given, the Gemara says, Kalu kol ha-kitz, and l'chayra, we're already at the end game. And weiter, we don't know. And weiter. What did Rebbe say in the later years very often? It doesn't make any sense. There's no beer. When's Mashiach coming? So there's a very interesting duality. On the one hand, when's Mashiach coming? Right now. Does he have? Do you know exactly the moment he's coming? We have no idea. I have no idea. We don't know. And there's no explanation why he didn't come and when is he coming. There's something about it we just completely don't know. But what's interesting is Chazal say is not only we don't know, the Eibusher doesn't know. The Eibusher doesn't know. Liba lepuma loy galia. He himself doesn't know that Daniel. The whole you see this throughout the Nevi'im. The whole Geula is a mystery. On the one hand, they talk about Geula nonstop, but it's all mysterious. We don't know. Everything's a machlokes. There's so many different opinions about everything. Everything is up in the air. Lashon Rambam, Einad Miyadea Mashayiyah, what's Lashon Achayiyah? We don't know. Geula stays unknown, not only by us, Kiviyachol, it's unknown by the Eibishter. The same Eibishter, Yedias Atzmo, Yedea Kol Hanimtzoyim, everything, the Eibishter knows everything. Al says Yadu. And not only he knows everything, he knows everything through self-knowledge, through self-awareness, self-knowledge. And the Geula stays Sasum. It's a part of this Oyer Atzmi that stays Behelim. It stays Behelim. Even when it's in a skala, it's in a way of Helim. It's a skala, and it was a vart, and finally Yaakov tries to megala something, and Nistamim, everything's very, very Sasumdik over there. It's not fully Begilim. And you see this, the same thing by the Rebbe. The people ask the Rebbe, when's Mashiach coming? I don't know. On the one hand, Mashiach's coming now and take it from Miyad and Megit Arois from Golos at the same time. That's something we just don't know about. It says that Yaakov, when he saw the ladder, the dream, he saw the ladder. It says he saw the different Goliaths. So one Goliath he saw 70 steps. Another Goliath he saw the 240 steps. The different steps based off how many years were in Goliath. Came to Goliath Edim, the oile, the exact lashon. The ladder just went and went. There was no stuff. There's no stuff. Now, what's about there's no stuff? The Goliath has an end. There's Be'ita, Achishan, and Mashiach's coming at some stage. While Mashiach's coming at the same time, there's a certain part of Goliath, because we don't know. Right, earlier Goliath, we knew when the end is. It says Niskala Avoinam, so Niskala Kitzam. We knew what the Avera is that brought us to Goliath, so we know what the seal, what the Ketz is. The last Goliath, Loy Niskala Avoinam, Loy Niskala Kitzam. The Oven wasn't Begoli, so the Ketz is not Begoli. We don't know. When you're in a state of you don't know, we all know this in our personal lives. Like you don't know when you're stuck, like in between. You're in a transition period. You're not here. You're not there. You're in between the 2 years. You're in a week off. Whatever it is. There's a certain sense of insecurity. There's almost a sense of eternity with this. Like you don't see a way out. Right now you're insecure. It's forever. We say, how do you forget us forever? Forever? Mashiach's coming. What, we're not believers. We don't believe Mashiach's coming. On the one hand, we believe Mashiach's coming. He's coming right now. On the other hand, Golos has this quality that it's so strong. It just goes on, and it has like almost this nitzchias to it. Bli gvul. There's no gvul to it. There's no limit. When no. So on the one hand, because there's no gvul, it could finish right now. Mashiach come right now, and therefore the first moment Golos started, Noilan Mashiach Shal Yisrael, it happened in a moment. On the other hand, I don't know how long. And that creates a sense of bligvul, which comes from the stimulus. This complete lack of understanding and bewilderment of the Ketz HaGeula, the secret of Geula and the secret of Galus, on the one hand, it creates a certain sense of tsar, of unlimited tsar, because right, where are we going? On the other hand, it's he could come right now. In a way, it's a gilui. It's a gilui that I could, whatever I do right now, I could change the present, bring the future into the present, because there's no time for it. You see in the Alpha days that every Shiurim, right? Take it from me, take it from Mashiach's coming. And then on the other side, you have the famous Sikha. First of all, you have the Sikha, Gimel Shvat, when the Rebbe spoke about that when there's a Chisaron in Dibur, and we have to imagine the Dibur of the Nasi. But later, a month later, after Mrs. Lapine was killed, so the Rebbe then said the Sikha after the Shiva, and the Rebbe then said, Oisius there, that was Zayin, and she'll have, and her kids are going to grow up, and they're going to have kids, and their kids are going to ask them about their grandmother. And like everyone was like complete, like every week, the Rebbe, Mashiach's coming right now, and the Rebbe was speaking about, like how could this be? Like, no, 20 years? No, 25 years? So, there's many different ways of looking at it, but one of the kudus is Mashiach's coming right now. At the same time, Golos presents us with a deep feeling and a deep pain of a certain sense of Lomel and Netzach Tishkochenu. Like you look at Golos and it's like, where's this going to end? It's like and just like a total emunah, at the same time a certain sense of helplessness. And that's the stimulus of Golos and Geula. So you see that this Inyan, you see by the Rebbe himself, you see by the Rav himself, you see by the Eibishter himself, it's Inyan that's Sasum. And this Inyan, even though it's Sasum, this is given over to us. This is given to us. So you see something very interesting. Tafshin Nun, Test, Tafshin Nun, and Nalf Nun Beis, those years, the Rebbe started Shturins, one of the big topics was, Koi Yinish Daiti the Rebbe. Right, that after 40 years, now you can get it. You can get what the Rebbe was saying all along. Now, when the Rebbe was Koi Yinish Daiti the Rebbe, doesn't just mean you can understand the Sikha better or Maamar better. Daiti the Rebbe explained means that you could actually get the ideas, the Derech HaLimud, the Rebbe said, Yud Shvat Tafshin Nun, the Shabbos before Yud Shvat, that now you could get the Derech HaLimud, almost like the Koyach HaMaskal, the Derech HaLimud behind. Even if you don't know, it's not knowing a deeper pshat in the Sikha. And now you learn Rashi Sikhs. Now you can learn Rashi, Klali Rashi, right? You can learn Rashi that way. You can learn Rambam that way. You could see the world that way. Even when a new case study comes up that the Rebbe didn't address L'cheira clearly. But that's all still included in Makif HaKariv. That's all our boy Yishin Kanshai to the Rebbe, because that's Betzem Dir. So what's the Makif HaRachik? Makif HaRachik is Yishloimar, it's this Nekudah of Geula. Yonigul Mashiach. On the one hand, the Rebbe says, go learn Yonigul Mashiach and know it b'das. You know. On the other hand, Ein Mashiach v'elo b'hesach hadas. On the other hand, no matter how much you learn about it, you don't know. It's like impossible to. We don't know the ketz. We don't fully understand what's going on when Mashiach comes. Mashiach, because the things there in themselves are very unclear. The be'etzem sasum. But that's what you should kachim. That's what you should kachim. And I'll just finish with this last vor, which I think is a mer dik nekudah. What does the Rebbe say in the Maamar? How do these inyanim stum actually be neskala? How do they come to the Gili Bas? How do we access them? How does the Rav teach it to the Talmud? The inyanim by the Rav himself, the Chayr, are in the way of Sasum. What does it say in the Maamar? Through Mishalem and Sipur. Right? Through Mishalem and Sipur. And here you see something very interesting. You see this in Tanakh already. You see this by Daily Yisrael B'Chalam, by the Rebbe Befrat. That a lot of the Nekudis of Geula, how are they given over to us? Through Mishalim and Sipurim. Right, the Rambam says, V'gar Ze'evim Keves is a mashal, mashal v'chida. And Mechlal, Yehudim Gashim. So much about Mashiach speaks about the Gashim things about Mashiach comes. And the Rebbe asks in many places, like, really, that's what Mashiach is? That we're going to have the candies, and we're going to have nice trees, and that's what Mashiach is? It's a mashal, yeah, but why so much emphasis? Why so much emphasis on the Mishalim of the Geula? The Geula is the greatest Gilei Likus. Because dafke the inyanim stumim, how do we access them? How do we appreciate them? Through a mashal. It can't come the gili. It can't come to gili. The nimshal. The nimshal can't be expressed. The nimshal has its limitations. We can only understand in gili likos to a certain degree. When you want to speak about the inyanim gili atzmi of the Eibishter, sort of the Eibishter's perspective on itself, how do we access it? Dafke through mishalim. Mishalim have that quality. Mishalim and Tzipor have that quality. They were able to touch it and to sort of relate to it, and through that access the deepest inyanim. You see this in the Rebbe's Lashon so often in the Sikhs about Mashiach. Yeah, as take it from Miyad, Megitzich Atresol, Megitzich Achab, Megifinzich, in Eretz Yisrael, in Harabayis, in Beis Hamikdash, in Kodesh HaKadoshim, Binoreinu, Vizkeneinu, Megit Afanani Shmaya. There's a lot of the Rebbe Bichlal, the Rebbe's style. The Rebbe is very almost literal. The Rebbe doesn't go into poetry, kiviyachol, and imagery. When the Rebbe speaks about Mashiach, very often, and almost all the sikhs, they finish off with a lot of imagery. Pasha the tzir, so you get that tanz, tanz mit in Eibishtin, in Kodesh HaKadoshim, tanz mit atzmos mahos. It's like, well, really, that's what Mashiach is, dancing? There's a lot of muscle brought. Again, that's the word. Dafke the inyonim stumin, dafke these inyonim, l'chayre. How are you talking about it? By the Rav himself, it's not clear. By the Rav himself, it's sasum. It's given over to us through Mishalim, through Sipurim, through that language. The deepest, most complicated things given to us through the most simplistic language. And that simplicity gives us sort of a handle to hold on to these inyanim and be able to have epis and appreciation until the ultimate gil, when it actually comes, and then it's actually begili by us. Any recommendations with learn? Bichlal? Just learn them. What does it ever say? Befrat Maamarim l'kut sichish on the Seder Dach. Yeah. There you see this. You see this Bichlal in Chassidus. You see this Inyan. There's a famous Sich Chilik Dalid Ekev Ayancha v'Yarivecha v'Yachilcha. The difference between Nigla and Chassidus. The Nigla, you eat it. It's geschmack. Chassidus is Mon, Lechem and Hashemayim. The problem with Lechem and Hashemayim is you never become satiated. It's like the more you have it, the more hungry you are, because you never fully get it. That's Chassidus. One hand, nothing has a geschmack as Chassidus. On the other hand, do we really get it? It always, right? It's not so tangible like Yonim Gashmi. And it's like someone told me, that's why people struggle with Chassidus, especially with Young Gul Mashiach, because you don't feel that you really get it. And is he coming? When's he coming? How's he coming? Yeah, I believe, but like I can't wrap my head around it. But that's the vort. That's the nikud of that's the oitzer dafke the dvarim astumim. The yoidim dvarim astumim. It's dafke the dvarim astumim. They're stumim be'etzem. They're in skalatos. And yeah, you might have to go through the mashal and there's other ways. The Rebbe said, like Rashi, dafke through the pshut lishol mikra, you're able to reach. Something very interesting, right? Dafke says dafke Rashi is dafke Rashi. The Rebbe, the Yenish Torah, the Rebbe is megala the deepest chidushim in Chassidus. Dafke from Rashi. Right? Dafke we have access to the deepest inyanim through the inyanim pshutim, through these inyanim. And dafke these parts. You're able to, on some level, have some kind of access, and appreciate. The Rebbe says in Balak Nun Aleph, the dafke das, that even though it's l'mayla min das, but through das, you're able to have a connection with it and make it real.
Those are little two opposites, though, no?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's very interesting. You see this in Mashiach more than anything. You see that we don't really understand it, and yet the language that Rebbe uses, the terminology, is more simplistic than anything else. Because dafke the mishalim, dafke the imagery, dafke the poetry almost, right? That kind of, something Rebbe would say, the Rebbe would close his eyes, right? It's like a stimulus, and they're just like going there, and they're just like describing something that's indescribable. I can't describe it, not just because I can't describe it to you, because the etzem it's indescribable. That's must say it's indescribable. But that's what's being given to you. It's being given to you through this image, through this tir, through this sipur, through the mushal. But the mushal has the whole stimulus atzmis.
Is this connected to
Yeah, koyach hatzir is very connected to the etzem nefesh. Yeah, as I said, and you see by the Rebbe, the koyach hatzir comes out by Mashiach more than anything else. Very interesting. Very interesting. Also, you see this all the way from the beginning, right? What does the Rebbe say? Right? It started off as this image, as a, it's a tzir. Why be mitzayer? Like really, that's like, being mitzayer tzir gula sida. It's gilia atzmos. What tzir gula sida? The gilia atzmos comes in the actual Beis Hamikdash, in the Garizevim Keves, in the Yehudim Gashmim. Dafke there is gilia atzmos, gilia etzem. The oira atzmi is in skala in that sprach, in that oifen. I mean, Gimel Shvat, they actually gave in then to the Rebbe. So then after Tazir Mitzvah said to Yonim Gul Mashiach, they prepared a Kovetz, the Sichos Yonim Gul Mashiach, and the Rebbe gave it out. They prepared another Kovetz given to the Rebbe, and it stayed by the Rebbe for months. Some of the Rebbe didn't give it back, so it was stuck. They gave it in the spring or summer. Gimel Shvat Nun Beis, a little before the Sicha. So the Rebbe sent out the Kovetz and said they should send it to print ASAP. And Lahoisif, the Lashon is printed, and add to this what's shaykh to this Indian from the Sichos of Shana Zu. First they added Chayesar Nun Beis and a few other Sichos in order to add to this in the Sichos of this year. And then the Rebbe said the Sicha, famous Sicha, Gimel Shvat, when there's a Chesarn in Dibur, right, there's a stimulus, there's a Chesarn in Dibur, but in Sederenu, we have to be, right, we, as the Makabel, are mashlim the dibur. When there's a helim, by the mashpia, the stimulus by the mashpia, it's dafke the mashal, the Makabel, the Talmud, that ultimately brings a begili.